when I was in Alabama on Saturday, I was in the deep South Alabama, and I went into a petrol station. The way they were talking, it was like the hills have eyes, no disrespect. It's crazy. Forget the funeral homes or the asylums, that's where the real terror was.
Obviously, we're talking to Ben from Places Forgotten again, and you're in the news yet again because of this quick trip that you took to the States. You were hitting the South, ended up in Georgia, and tell us what you found.
I didn't have a lot to do on the weekend, so I thought, I'm just going to go to the States, as you do.
Just pop
Mhm.
in.
I went to Pensacola, then I went to Alabama, and then I drove from Alabama up to Georgia and did this funeral home. I went in at night and I thought, oh, it's all good. And then I went back the next day and I was like, oh, okay. So, first thing first, there was a fetus in the jar. You saw that, right?
Yes,
Amazing.
WSB just did a story on this.
Mm.
Why would there be a fetus in a jar?
I don't know. I've never seen it. And every funeral home I go to, 8 out of 10, there's ashes. It's a given. The one I'd gone to in Pensacola had, I think, 4 boxes. And this had cupboards full. I'm talking like more than 50 ashes. But the weird thing with this one was some of these were from like February this year, and it still had the addresses on. And I Googled the address and I thought, my God, this is like a mile away. And then I did a post on Reddit and it blew up. It was like 20K in an hour. Then people sent the Reddit to the police.
So there was a backstory with this funeral home. There's a
Yes.
reason that it was shut down.
The guy was doing some pretty shady things with money. He was taking money for burials. Then the funeral home got foreclosed on. And then I think the day it got foreclosed on, it caught fire, which is an incredible coincidence. A fire department couldn't find a cause of the fire. Now the owner has completely disappeared. Yeah, it's very bizarre. But you see this a lot. I mean, this happens all the time. I've still got more funeral homes to do.
Am I the only one surprised by the fact that we have these funeral homes that are getting foreclosed on, and somehow there's not like a team of people that go in and make sure that everybody who has come through this place gets what they need, their loved ones, that kind of thing?
I guess if you're licensed and you're part of a committee, maybe there's a process that you go through, like a hospital.
Yeah.
I did a hospital in Boston recently that I climbed in a window, and the security guard was very unhappy that I did that. But that had mostly been cleared. So they have teams that come in, but I think they're more regulated. I think a lot of these funeral homes are probably independent. A lot of them, I think, have expired licenses from what I've read. And if they close the doors and it's a small town, who's going to follow it up?
It does seem like whoever was waiting for those ashes, somebody paid for those ashes, or were they given something that was not the ashes? So that's something that's been kind of a common practice where people are receiving things and it's like concrete or animal ashes. I just listened to that podcast called Noble, and it's about kind of not a similar situation, but one where it got completely out of hand. And that one was also in Georgia, the Tri-State Crematorium, where they found 339 bodies that had yet to be cremated, just laying around in random places, sometimes buried in holes, sometimes bunches of them lumped together. So this was years ago. The man responsible has already gone to jail and come out of it. But in that case, people were receiving cremains, and it was animal stuff, concrete. Sometimes it was a completely different body. It wasn't even their loved one.
I did a funeral home in Jacksonville since I saw you girls last, and the guy was doing that. He was giving kitty litter instead of remains.
Why? Why?
Well, he wasn't, I don't know. And then when the police went to serve him, he ran off and they found 3 bodies in there hadn't been cremated. And yeah, it was the same thing. He was giving kitty litter and taking the money, and he's in jail now.
I just wonder, what is there to gain from that?
I know it is really weird. And especially it's like, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to give you kitty litter. I've got the body here. I know what I'll do. Let me dig a hole in my yard. I'll just put it in there.
Right.
You wonder what goes on.
I do think in a weird way, this is a good public service because like you said, every time, most of the time when you go into these places, you're finding human remains. It's important for people to know that like, we always want to assume that it's on the up and up, but that's not always the case. And like my mother was cremated in Marietta, Georgia, which is where this place
That's crazy.
was.
Small world.
Small world, I know. And I had this moment of, holy shit, what if? And so I went and checked, and thank God it was a different funeral home. But we always want to assume that it's going to be fine, but sometimes it just isn't. And we do have to do the due diligence of double checking on these places, making sure you're actually getting your remains, which is a horrible thing to think about. Like, Does that mean you have to open up the urn?
Yeah, yeah.
Because how are you gonna know?
Yeah, exactly. Let's say you have a whole tray of ashes. How are you going to
Yeah.
know which one is who and which one's the other, you know?
Yeah.
So I know you
Mm.
can't tell us exactly where you're going, but can you give us any hints on what you're working on next? Where you're
Oh, sure. Well, I want to do some more funeral homes. And I want to do some
Of course.
asylums, but I'll let you girls know. I probably shouldn't say the states because then every funeral home owner will be kind of like double locking their doors, like, yeah, that guy's not coming in here.
and you've been great about like keeping us posted on any of the cool stuff you find. You
And the
sent that,
memes.
yes, and you sent that incredible photo from that school in Japan that was shut
Yes.
down by the earthquake. That
Oh,
was
yeah, that was cool.
amazing. That was so, so cool. So keep us posted. We won't tell anybody where you are. And,
I'll let you know.
and let us know when you're coming to Texas so we can,
Hook up.
We'll go and have a steak for sure. I keep promising this.